invite you to relax, close your eyes, rest in the presence, and hold space.
Gణपतये namo namah. Gణपतये namo namah. Gణपतये namo namah. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamare. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamare. Gణपतये namo namah. Gణpataye 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 namo namah. Om Ekadantaya Vidmahi Vakrtundaya Dhimahi Tanno Danti Prachodayat. Gణpataye namo namah. 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 Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamare. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamare. Gణpataye namo namah. 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 Om Vakratundaya Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvigyam Kuru Me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada. Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamari. Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Suklam Bharadram Vishnu Sasivarnam Chaturvujam Prasannavadaram Dhyaye Sarvavignyopashantaye. Shankam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamari. Om
Namaste.
Namaste.
Welcome to our weekly online satsang. Satsang being a Sanskrit word that really just means spiritual community, but a specific kind. The word satsang means community of truth. And we're talking about a community when 2 or 3 people on the path of awakening and the flowering of the heart and oneness with the divine come together to share their journey, to share their presence, to share their challenges with one another. Our strength is multiplied exponentially when we do that. We're so glad you're here tonight. This is a time when it is important, essential that the human race shift from the global insanity of competition, conflict, and war to cooperation, harmony, and peace, which can only happen when the human heart collectively on this planet flowers. And we're moving toward that day one person at a time. So glad you're here. Throughout the webcast, we're sharing a transmission we call the Flowering Heart Blessing. It's a direct transmission of divine grace, presence, awakened consciousness that catalyzes awakening in the receiver. When the divine introduced Suzanne and me to this blessing
9 years ago.
9 years ago, wow. It was very, very clear, the divine showing us that this was a gift directly from the divine, a gift of grace, and so we shouldn't charge for it. And we should let people know that once you receive it, and you're soaking in it right now, if you'd like to be an instrument, a vessel for the Flowering Heart Blessing to flow through you, all you need to do is take an intention, offer yourself to the divine, and invite the presence to pour the blessing through you. So all of you are initiated now. You're in the presence and you're soaking in the Flowering Heart Blessing right now. So please join us in sending the blessing to all who join us here tonight and those who will be viewing this video recording at any time in the future. In spirit, there is no distance or separation rooted in time and space. It's all here and now. So someone who plays this video 10 years from now would feel the same presence, the same vibrant presence and blessing that we experience here tonight. So thank you for joining us and doing that, holding the intention for all that will be watching in the future, the recording. And I think we don't have any real announcements this week.
Yep.
Just be sure to give us a like or a love, a heart or a thumbs up if you're on Facebook Live. If you're watching on Vimeo, you could just enter in the chat, "Hi, it's me." And we go in at the end, and in the days from one Monday to the next, I go back and look and see who's dropped in and watched it and send special blessings and hugs. So we like to open it to questions and answers on the spiritual journey. And really it's open not just to questions, but if you've had a breakthrough, a revelation, an awakening that you want to share, feel free to do that too. But mostly we occupy ourselves with questions, seeking more clarity, more understanding, more light on a particular issue or something that we're experiencing in our own spiritual practice and in our path. So ask that still small voice inside of you if you have a question that might spark the conversation tonight. You know, all of us have a unique and somewhat different path, journey. We can't pattern our own journey like a mirror reflection of somebody else. And that's one of the mistakes that many of us do along the way, thinking that our unfolding, our process will be exactly like a particular teacher or a brother or sister on the path, just to find that it's each of us, our path is a unique print, like a snowflake, all different. And yet, we face the same challenges, the same ups and downs. And so any question you ask will help everyone who gathers with us tonight. So, while we wait for that to come up and for you to enter your questions, should you have any.
Or miracles.
Or a miracle. Oh yeah, we talked about that last week. It's important if you have miracles or see the hand of the divine intervening in your life to share that. The more that you share it, it stimulates faith in others, It amplifies the frequency and the intensity of the miracles in your own life. So share away. Tonight I'm going to share quotes and a little article from inspiringquotes.com about emotional intelligence. And the author of this article and collection of quotes is Bennett Kleinman. And Bennett is a staff writer at Optimism, as well as a freelance comedy writer based in New York City. So thank you for this, Bennett. And here's the little article that he has written about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence can be defined as our ability to interpret emotions in a constructive way. People with lower emotional intelligence may react without properly assessing the potential consequences of their actions, often leading to unwanted outcomes. Those who have learned to process emotions in a healthier way, however, can enjoy an enhanced quality of life and better the lives of those around them as well. When someone has high emotional intelligence, it means they're competent in evaluating the entire range of human emotions: sadness, happiness, anger, love, anxiety, excitement, gratitude, etc. It all comes down to identifying how we and others are feeling and knowing how to proceed in accordance with our estimation. Examples of high emotional intelligence include being able to let go of mistakes when nothing more can be done, showing empathy when a friend needs someone to support them, and embracing change when it's time for a new chapter in your life. Perfection may be impossible when it comes to emotional intelligence, but we should always be striving to improve, as this can only lead to a more rewarding life full of rich emotional experiences. Here are 12 quotes from some wise individuals that can help you on your journey. So here we go. Use pain as a stepping stone, not a campground. Alan Cohen. Feelings can't be ignored, no matter how unjust or ungrateful they seem. Anne Frank. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Viktor Frankl. Suppressing the feelings only makes it harder to let them go. Expression is the opposite of depression. Edith Eger. Empathy does not equal agreement. Chris Voss. How you react emotionally is a choice in any situation, and those cumulative choices can make or break your chances for well-being. Judith Orloff. Everyone must be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. St. James, the brother of Jesus, chapter 1, verse 19. You are, after all, what you think. Your emotions are the slaves to your thoughts, and you are the slave to your emotions. Elizabeth Gilbert. It is important to understand that emotional intelligence is not the opposite of intelligence. It is not the triumph of heart over head. It is the unique intersection of both. David Caruso. Nice one. You can conquer almost any fear if you'll only make up your mind to do so. For remember, fear doesn't exist anywhere except in the mind. Dale Carnegie. It takes something more than intelligence to act intelligently. Fyodor Dostoevsky. Education is the ability to listen to almost anything without losing your temper or your self-confidence. Robert Frost. There were a few of those that really stood out to me. One, that empathy is not agreement.
Right.
Necessarily. We're living in a time where the world is so divided, philosophically, religiously, politically, that we need to maintain an open heart that can empathetically feel what the other is feeling. That doesn't mean we agree. It means we feel them. I feel you. I feel where you're coming. If we do that, it's amazing how much insight we get into people that hold points of view that may, on the surface, seem opposite our own. And that quote that emotional intelligence is not the triumph over the head over the heart. Wait, back, strike that, reverse it, shoot, 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 raise. Emotional intelligence is not the triumph of the heart over the head, but the intersection of both. Because we talk so much about getting out of our heads and into our hearts, which is really important because most humans, especially in the Western world, are stuck in the intellect, stuck in the head. So a lot of the instructions early in the spiritual journey is dive that 12 inches from your head into your heart. Perfect. But what has to happen eventually is that the intelligence of the heart, the intuitive, empathetic intelligence of the heart, intersects and balances with the intelligence of the head, the mind. The mind is not to be thrown away, but to be renewed, cleared, and restructured in harmony with the heart. And education is the ability to listen to almost anything without losing your temper or your self-confidence. Listening is one of the big ingredients of emotional intelligence. Not just, I see where you're going, let me counter that. I see where you're going, hear what I have to say. Well, maybe I don't see where you're going, but I at least, even if I think that I do, you deserve to be heard. And for me to, without an emotional charge coming at you or some strategy being planned in the background so that I'm not even listening to you, I'm just planning my comeback, to just be open and listen without becoming angry or losing my self-confidence in listening to you. Why should I be threatened by your point of view? I should be able to feel it without agreeing with it, and without losing my temper or feeling that somehow I'm being personally threatened because you have a particular emotional take or intellectual take on reality that isn't in harmony with mine. The same kind of agreement that we were talking about that is possible between the heart and the head can also happen between two people who hold opposing points of view. And that's what we need to see happen on Earth these days. You want to add anything?
It just reminded me, we were talking with a friend on the beach. He's a retired lawyer, and he's 95, and we were, talking about how we live, and we live by faith. And we were talking about a situation that was going on, and I said, I just trust and have faith that everything's going to work out. And he said, oh, no, you can't think like that. You can't live like that. And I said, well, it's worked for us so far. But yeah, it reminded me of that, we need to be able to listen to what others say, whether we agree with them or not. But he was so cute. He got so flustered over that. I like to think that maybe we're showing him a different reality, and he's trying to teach us his reality. And so I ask him for advice sometimes, and he listens to what we have to say. But in that particular instant, he was pretty emphatic that you can't live by faith.
Yeah, he's got more faith than he admits.
Yes, that's true.
He's at least agnostic, if not atheist, humanist. But a beautiful, oh my God, just a beautiful angelic soul. So, you know, he gets compassion and understanding and empathy, but this faith thing. Okay. So Shivam Patel writes, I feel a good vibration when I tune in. Where's this vibration coming from, and how do I tune into it in my own private meditation? Well, what you're feeling is the tangible presence of the divine, which is something that has been a central feature of our interfaith ministry for the last going on 20 years. It used to be a lot of work to take a beginner on the spiritual journey to a point where they actually experience the presence directly and feel the tangible presence of God. And it's become easier and easier and easier because the divine is really helping. There are so many forms of blessing, which in Sanskrit would be the word Diksha, which many of you have heard of various kinds of Diksha. There was oneness Diksha, there's Saima Diksha, there's this Diksha and that Diksha. Shaktipat from the Siddha yoga movement, that's a form of Diksha. It's often translated initiation. It's usually spelled not the way some of you have been spelling it, D-I-K-S-H-A. Same thing though as D-E-E-K-S-H-A. And literally translated often as initiation. But it tends to, there are many different forms of Diksha, but many of the forms involve a direct transmission of enlightened awareness, of the grace and the love and the light of the divine presence that the divine is shining to catalyze the process of awakening in the receiver. If you're already in the process of awakening, receiving Diksha, in this case, Hridaya Vikasa Diksha, which means flowering heart blessing, can melt the blocks, can melt the walls that we sometimes run into in our spiritual process, open the door, smooth the works, and kind of speed us along. I always like to point out that awakening is not a destination. It's a process that never ends. Infinite expansion and transformation. So even if you're already awakened, Diksha will expand your awakening infinitely. So that's the good vibration you're feeling. There is a vibration, but it's even more than vibration. Vibration, frequency is energy. Energy, like positive, negative, like electricity. And there is that. There is certainly, the universe was birthed through vibrational energy. Behind that was spirit, pure intelligence, citta, pure awareness, pure light of consciousness. And spirit is not limited by frequency. Frequency travels through time and space. Spirit is everywhere present instantly, which is why the vibration you're feeling when you tune in to these webcasts, someone could play this recording 10 years from now and they would feel the same vibration, because it's being generated by the divine presence that transcends time and space and is always fully present right here, right now. So that's what you're feeling. How do you tune into it in your own private meditation? Well, there are various ways. Some of us simply invoke the presence, invite the presence, and find that the divine comes right away. You can give yourself blessing. If you were to go to our website, floweringheart.org, there's a 36-minute video of initiation to give the flowering heart blessing, although you don't really need it because you're getting it right now. But there's a little more understanding, a little more guidance in that 36-minute video. And one of the things we share is that after you've presented yourself and been initiated as a vessel of the flowering heart blessing, you can literally gently place your hands on your own head and the divine will just pour the blessing into you. But this triggers a kind of there's so many different kinds of meditation. On our website we share at least a dozen different kinds of meditation that may appeal to different temperaments. You need to find one that works for you. But one kind that I really like, and that transmissions like the Flowering Heart Blessing stimulate, catalyze in a person, would be called Sahaj Dhyana. Dhyana's meditation or concentration. Sahaj means spontaneous. So it's like the presence just fills your space, fills your room where you are, fills you, and spontaneously the divine presence itself takes you into meditation. In the Christian mystical tradition, that would be called infused contemplation. Contemplation in the Christian tradition is being absorbed, dissolved in God. Infused contemplation is when the divine's doing it by infusing that grace into you. There's another kind called acquired contemplation, which is where you work for it. So similar with samadhi in the Eastern traditions, there are methods and spiritual practices to take you deeper and deeper into the presence, into a place of dissolution in God, samadhi, absorption in God. And so you can work for it, or the divine could just gift you with it through the gift of the outpouring of the presence, which is what we're basically doing here on Monday nights. And in our Wednesday night satsangs here at Flowering Heart Center, which you're all welcome to if you happen to be in Clearwater, Florida. We would love to have you.
The other thing that's important to remember is the divine presence is already in us, around us, through us, in everything. And oftentimes it's just a matter of setting the intention to feel that presence. We're the ones that are tuning out to it or aren't recognizing it. But it's like if you've never had mango ice cream, then you couldn't describe it to somebody, or you don't experience it, you don't feel it.
You can taste it.
Yeah, but as soon as you taste mango ice cream, then you can recall that and have that in your memory bank. It's the same thing with what you're feeling here tonight. You're feeling the presence. So just set an intention and ask the divine to be there with you, and it already is, but you're setting the intention and you're aligning yourself with the divine presence so that you are actually the one starting to pay attention to it, as you have already. And when we start to pay attention to it, we start to see it everywhere.
Excellent. That's a higher truth. I talked about invoking the presence,
Right.
inviting the presence like it isn't already there.
Right.
And it will fill you like it isn't already. Because everything that exists is existing within the ocean of the divine presence. The divine fills everything that exists already. So
just don't
really
see
what
it.
we're doing when we talk about invoking the presence is inviting the divine to just draw back the veil, which is usually in the mind, and allow us to feel what, as Suzanne said, has always been the case. It's always been there. But when the veil begins to be drawn back,
Like, wow.
wow, it's like this is a whole new thing that's come into my life. No, it's just your senses,
You're
your
seeing it
spiritual
now.
senses are beginning to awaken. Nice. Danny writes, how do I gently surrender my past experiences and memories in order to live fully present? Or am I required to feel all these memories individually before I set them down? No, you are not required to feel all of your memories individually before you set them down. It's really up to the divine, though. The usual mode is that there are memories, experiences that are too painful or too confusing or too challenging for us to process when they happen. So we kind of sweep them under the carpet for another time when we'll be in a better place to be able to handle it. Problem is, if we really succeed in sweeping it under the carpet of the unconscious mind, we forget it's there until it's triggered. And usually they're triggered with an emotional response. So if it's a scary thing that happened to you, then the emotion that's triggered could be fear. And of course, anything we fear, we want to run away from, get away from. Of course, anything that's unpleasant, we want to get away from. So that causes us to resist feeling this memory. And anything we resist will persist. This is, just mark that down. Everybody knows it. I can say this in a conference of 5,000 people. Everything you resist will, and the whole room will go persist. It's like the human heart knows this, and yet look at all the memories that we don't want to remember that feel. I don't ever want to feel that way again. I don't. I have so many like that. But once I began to see that the reason that stuff is lingering in the unconscious, just waiting to be triggered again and again and again, is because I haven't been able to allow myself to feel it. So one of the processes is when those memories or feelings, these emotional charges are triggered and begin to come up, to just accept that that's happening. To not run, but to embrace it, in the sense of accepting that there it is and allowing myself to fully experience it. Anything that's fully experienced releases. It's only when there are pieces of the experience that were so unacceptable, that's why we shove them into the unconscious. That's why we put up walls to never feel it again, to not think about it any more than we have to. But when we fully experience the emotional charge of it, whether it's the anger that's being generated or the sadness, the grief, or the fear, when we fully experience the emotional charge, it discharges. The memory persists, but not the pain, not the emotional charge of fear or anger or sadness or grief that impregnates that memory before it's cleared. So it's very important that we remember certain things. I know some of my Jewish friends, they have said over the years, remember, you need to remember the past. If you don't remember it, you'll repeat it. And that realization was fostered by the Holocaust, which was so terrible. So the Jewish people are like, it's not refusing to forgive, but it's refusing to forget such an important and painful lesson learned so that we don't have to repeat it. Okay, there are some that are just too painful. So I know of a situation where a young lady who was pursuing the monastic life had such horrendous abuse, terrible abuse in her early life before she came to the spiritual journey and the monastic life, that it was too painful. It was too horrible. And the divine just went, okay, and erased the memory and the charge associated with that trauma. That's not the usual way of things, but it is possible that you don't have to experience the emotional charge, but generally the memory remains. It's just the pain and the emotional charge to it is not there. So the memory comes up, oh, there's that. And it just, goes through the mind. In deep meditation or contemplative prayer, one of the last faculties that is absorbed in God is memory. So there is this place where memories stop coming up in that place. And the final one is imagination. Even the imagination itself is just on hold. And there's nothing but God, which is really nice. But then after that meditation or that time of samadhi or absorption, generally until you reach a very high state of union, the imagination kicks back in. The memories are still there, but they're not causing suffering. Have anything to add?
Just that, sometimes those memories can be our greatest friend, especially if we trust in the divine process of our souls unfolding and unloading things. So when these memories or these emotions attached to these memories come up, just quietly ask the divine, what do I need to learn from this? What would best serve me? how could I best release this? What do I need to learn? So it could be a very beautiful inward journey if you're open to connecting with the divine presence and receiving what it's trying to tell you. Then it makes it easier for it to dissipate, because then it becomes our friend. It becomes our friend because it showed us one more blockage or one more barrier to our full spiritual growth process.
And then Danny wrote, Edith, love that quote. I'm not sure Edith is or what quote you're referring to. If you want to fill us in, that would be great. Otherwise, Edith must have shared a quote. I went back through all the quotes I read, and none of them were from anyone named Edith, so I'm not sure what that is. Yekaterina writes, could it be that some of our human experiences are already divine planned, and others we create or co-create with the divine, like a dance? Well, what can I say of miracles is that when I travel and I get lost or have a problem, there are always angels in form of human beings that help me. For example, when I came to Florida with you guys, I was in a theme park with my crutches, and a manager from the park helped me get easy and fast to the attractions, skipping the long line in the Avatar ride, and also could take an amazing picture with one of the blue characters of the movie. Nice, I haven't seen that. Yeah, and I like the way you put that. So many times when I've been traveling or in a strange place, it's happened several times in India, but it's happened all over. And I used to live on the road and sleep in the woods and live like a sadhu years and years ago. And the angels usually came to me in the form of people who just, in an extraordinary way, opened the door to their homes, their hearts, their lives to help me and support me. And you just knew that if they weren't really angels, definitely the hand of God was upon them, or an angel had its wings around them to give them grace to help us. And I love those miracles especially. Very nice. Reminds me of, I won't give all the details. I was in Stevensville, Montana, and the place that I was staying at just closed suddenly, and it was winter, and it was snowing, and everything I had was in a rolling suitcase. And like, what do you do in Stevensville, Montana in the middle of the night? Small town.
6 blocks.
The Bible Belt of Montana. Bible Belt, no, Banana Belt. Because it's one of the warmer places in Montana, still absolutely freezing. And so I didn't know what to do. I think I communicated with Suzanne and said, pray.
I prayed.
And she prayed. And so there was this restored antique home. And it said bed and breakfast, but this was like 10 o'clock at night. And the doors were shut, and it was like no vacancy, doors shut, locked, down for the evening. And, well, I had to try. So I went and knocked on the door. And when the door came open, there was a lady standing there, and behind her was a 6 or 7 foot tall bust of the Bodhisattva Kuan Yin. Oh my God, the goddess of compassion. I've never seen a Kuan Yin bust that big. And this lady standing in front of it looked into my heart, and she said, on the outside, you look very distressed and troubled, but inside of you there is such deep peace. She said, come on in. And she and her husband gave me a place to stay and fed me and drove me all the way to the airport in Missoula the next day. And they were truly angels. They had lived all over the world for years in a sailboat, just she and her husband, and had been in many places where there were just strangers and where they needed people's help or to help others, and they had that quality. And so, yep, know what you mean. Rebecca writes, Why do I feel like I need to heal from healing? Can you get PTSD from healing Kundalini awakening?
Yes.
I need to know more to really give that a good answer, but that can happen.
Yes, sometimes Kundalini awakening can be very abrupt, very sudden, can cause physical symptoms, especially if we're trying to push it too much. I remember the first time I did a breathing meditation called Ananda Mandala, where it's a series of rapid breathing and then you move through the chakras. They said that it helps to clear out all of your charges. So I thought, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to clear all of my charges out. And I did, and I didn't clear all of my charges out, but I really went for it. And I breathed and I breathed and I breathed and I breathed, and then you hold your breath, and I did it so intensely and so strongly that I did have some breakthroughs, but I also had a migraine for 3 days, to the point where I had to go see somebody about it and get some medication because it was just so awful. And I learned a valuable lesson that day. It's like, it's good to, sometimes push yourself a little bit, but when it comes to Kundalini or even spirituality, there's its own pace where it's going to unfold, and we have to trust in the divine process. Otherwise, we're doing trauma to ourselves and our chakras and our Kundalini and our body.
I like to use a flower as an image that, we know that flowers need light and fertilizer, nutrients in the soil to grow and blossom and flourish. So, in our brilliant human minds, we think if a little light is good, let's turn the light all the way up. Well, then a plant can get too much light and get fried. Same with fertilizer. A little fertilizer is good. What if I gave it 10 times as much fertilizer? Well, it'll burn the roots. It'll burn the plant up. So, it has to be paced.
And also, like a flower, you can't say, bloom, bloom. You need to bloom today. Flowers just bloom when they're ready, when it's their time. So,
Rebecca, well, there's more comments here, so we're going to read them. One other thing before I forget it is that I used to be very focused on healing my own body when I was young. I had a month of bronchitis every year that would surface, but I was really into the Taoist healing arts, energy work, doing energy healing with other people, working with herbs and nutrition, learning a lot about all that, but I just kept getting sick again and again and again. And a spiritual teacher came along one day and said, as long as you keep your attention on your body like that, you're going to keep getting sick. It's like you're looking for it, and you're going to find whatever you look for. Your attention's too much on the body. Lift up your eyes and set your eyes on the light with singleness. And when I did that, it was like this weight lifted from me, and I stopped getting sick. I still use all these tools for healing when it's called for, but if we can just help a person to get their eyes set on the divine alone, Christ said your whole body will be filled with light. Thank you, Michael. And Rebecca adds more. The emotional purging symptoms are so intense. I feel traumatized. I never wanted Kundalini, and I wasn't trying to speed it up. Wounds were triggered by outside stuff too. Just wait a minute, let me read this before you add more. I never wanted Kundalini, I wasn't trying to speed it up. Wounds were triggered by outside stuff too, though they weren't traumatic though. Well, we've heard this many times with the awakening of Kundalini. There are grounding practices, lying in Shavasana, which is lying on the ground. I invite people to do it at the end every week. Lying on the ground, on your back with your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides with your palms open, turned upward. This is very grounding. It lets the Kundalini energy ground back down through your body. Most of the difficult symptoms are because the Kundalini energy is set off and it's rising powerfully, thunderously up into the upper chakras. That's not the entire circuit of the Kundalini. It fountains out the top of the head as a golden elixir that then flows down through the entire body, all the way down to the ground. When that entire circle up and then all the way down is intact, almost all of the side effects of Kundalini go like that. Taoist earth meditation, which takes the Kundalini energy in a circle. Inhale and it comes up the back to the top of the head. Exhale and it's allowed to flow down the front of the body and reconnect with the root chakra at the base in a circle. When that circle's connected, most of those traumatic symptoms disappear. Sometimes not all of them. There are even we learn mantras in India that will bring Kundalini back down. We don't like to do that. It's a lot of work to get Kundalini up, so I'd rather balance it and integrate it. But sometimes if there's an individual that's going into shaking, all kinds of uncontrollable shaking or there's seizure-type behavior, we can whisper a mantra in their ear that will just soften it and bring the Kundalini back down. So there are various things. You need to be, I think, under the competent oversight of a master teacher. If you're going to work with Kundalini, and even you said you weren't even looking for it, it just happened. Still, it's good to get with a competent teacher who has mastered the Kundalini circuit and is able, has the gifts to bring balance and stability to your unfolding Kundalini.
Something else that really helps too is going outside in nature for 10, 15, 20 minutes at least, and walk around barefoot on the earth and feel your connection to the earth, several feet or even to the core of the earth. As you're walking, feel your connection to the earth and or lie down on the earth. It could be on a light blanket or whatever, but go lie down in a yard or a park and just spend time in nature, because that will naturally balance things very easily also.
So Shivam writes, "Tell us more, Sister Rebecca, Divine Being." And Rebecca wrote, "Good point. I focused too much on the pain. Thank you." And then Shivam has a follow-up. "When a teacher, mystic, guide can produce divine vibrations, does it mean we can trust him? Are there people who can offer Shaktipat who are crooked, abusive?" Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. And that's where there are yogic powers called siddhis. And there's the equivalent in all the mystical traditions. There are people that have developed yogic powers as a result of their practice who are not necessarily ethical or moral individuals. It takes real discernment. And we just touched on it tonight. We're really out of time, but there needs to be discernment. You can't assume that because someone has apparent divine powers, that's God's stamp of approval, or saying that they're like the guy in Brazil who can stay unnamed who brought healing to thousands of people, purportedly from divine beings working with him, only to discover that he had abused over 600 women and children during this period. It definitely was not, in my book, not an emissary of God at all. So this requires discernment. And Jesus Christ said, "You'll know them by their fruits, not by their gifts, not by their powers." Christ said, "Beware of those who come to you showing great signs and wonders, professing that this is some proof that there's some big deal." There are seducers, so that's quite right. And I don't want anyone to be afraid, but I do want you to be wise. Is this teacher long-suffering? Do they have love, joy, peace? Are they patient and kind? These are the first things to look for, not do they have the power to knock you across the room with Shaktipat, okay? Good point. Thank you for that, Shivam. That's very important.
Also, Rebecca, too, what people don't realize is on the spiritual journey, and Danielle, if things are getting to be too much or overwhelming, you can always ask the Divine Presence to slow it down.
Yeah.
slow it down and give it to you in smaller bites that, it's like a baby bird trying to be fed a whole worm instead of the mama bird chewing it up and making it easy for the bird to digest. So we can always ask for grace to have everything slow down and be at a pace that we're more comfortable with.
And there are spiritual teachers who, when all that painful, traumatic stuff is unloading because of rising Kundalini, can help you, take you through processes to release it and flow with it. But again, that's very hands-on, one-on-one with spiritual guides. And I encourage that whenever there's a powerful awakening of Kundalini energy. Wow.
Good job, guys.
Yeah. So we're going to do a little direct intention blessing, and then we're going to go right into the I blessing because we're running a little bit late. So close your eyes if you would, and just open your heart and invite the presence to flood you with light and grace. The divine presence dwells within you in all of its fullness. The entire universe is inside of you. That's a mystery. The outer world is a reflection of the inner world, and the entire universe is within you. Deep within you at the center of your being is the fullness of the Godhead bodily. And this presence is pure, unconditional love. It yearns as an affectionate parent to embrace you, to fill you with grace and light and love, to dissolve the delusion of separation, distance from the divine. This is just a veil in the mind. You've never been far from the divine. The divine is not judging you, but is welcoming you home. So for the next few minutes, just yield yourself to the attraction of divine love, drawing you into oneness with itself. This presence knows everything you need on every level of your life, mentally, emotionally, physically, relationally, financially. It already knows what you need. So for right now, just relax, let go, and allow the presence to work on you. Receive. Breathe it in. we're sitting in a circle together with our eyes closed. Lift up your hands with your palms open, facing forward. Invite the presence to pour the flowering heart blessing through you to all the others in the circle. As they all invite the divine to pour the blessing through them, and it's flowing back to you through all of them. Now you can rest your hands in your lap somewhere. And when you're ready, open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me as we dive into the flowering heart light meditation. In this meditation, Suzanne and I are flooded with oceans of divine grace, love, and light. And it pours through every fiber of our being to you, especially through our eyes, which have been called the doorways of the soul, the windows of the soul. The light shines out through our eyes, in through your eyes, into your heart of hearts, causing the light of spiritual awakening to shine brighter and brighter. The fire of divine love to burn brighter and brighter, melting, transforming you. Just keep looking at least one of our eyes and receive. Close your eyes now. Meditate with us a few more minutes as the grace settles within you. Keep meditating as long as it feels nice to you. Or you could find a place nearby to lie in Shavasana. Again, that's to lie on your back comfortably with your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides with your palms open, turned upward, and just dissolve in gratitude in the presence. We love you much.
Much love, light, and blessings.
Until we meet again, know that the divine in us beholds the divine in you, and we bow to you.